Okay, gang. For my presentation, I decided to cover a tool for requirements engineering. In this case, it's Jira that's made by Atlassian. It's been around for a while, and I kind of wanted to do this one because I just took I'll be starting a new job in about a month or so, hopefully, that uses Jira heavily for project tracking and requirements engineering. So kind of made sense to take a look at this and hope you guys will get something out of it. Um, so the basic setup here on the main page is just Kanban, and by default, without really adding any plugins, Jira more or less just does, as you can see, sort of straight up project management. In this case, this is obviously Kanban. You can pick between Kanban and waterfall, and this is just some quick notes that are quick tasks that I wrote up here. And you can add one and just so let's see, maybe we'll add some features requested by the client, and assume that would have to go through change management approval, but we can move it around as it's going through its various processes. And very basic tracking there. That's just Kanban. We use it actually at EITS, the University of Georgia, but Kanban really isn't requirements engineering. So to get into that, we have to look a little bit deeper. So I applied the Jira RTM plugin to a project that I already had existing from some years ago. It was actually creating working in a lab that was doing virtual reality research, and we were trying to create a social app where we could tell if two people were kind of hitting it off in a conversation. It was kind of a dating scene based on how they're moving and where their arms are and how they're holding their arms, and are they moving closer together or farther apart. COVID killed it, unfortunately, but we had actually made a decent amount of progress with it. And I had added a few things to Jira, and I added them to this project that you see here, Social Sync VR. That was going to be the name of the app. Unfortunately, when I added the RTM plugin, it kind of trumped most of what I had done already with test data. It looks like for a mobile app, but that's fine. We can sort of get an idea of what you can do. So this would be basically what you would see once you've added the requirements and test management plugin for Jira. And you see you have just a list of things going on, part of the test plan there. I think that's going to be a test case, yeah. And then further down, you're going to have requirements and functional requirements, that sort of thing. We've got tasks here, and this was actually a couple of my tasks that were existing in this project already, and that was to modify the JavaScript tracking script that we were using that ran against Node.js on a server to track Vive pucks, and so we could track where the person's arms were. It was pretty neat, but never came to fruition thanks to COVID, unfortunately. But my stuff did kind of make it in here. So that doesn't really tell us a whole lot about what we can do in terms of testing and matrices and that sort of thing that we learned in class. So let's take a look at what we can do in terms of test management and tracking. And that's actually a third-party plugin that you install. You go to Explore More Apps, and you want to install R4J to be able to do this in Jira. But let's take a look at what's there now. So this is my project, and let's say we wanted to look at test cases versus functional requirements. And what you're actually doing here is selecting the columns, like we saw, and I think it was the last module that we covered, where you can go in and or where we studied the matrices. So the matrices that could give you sort of the crossing between the functional requirements and is it a test case already, and that sort of thing. So let's see what we get. Yeah, so you get this nice overlapping of, looks like we've got the test cases on the left and the functional requirements at the top, and you get this nice output here and can see where they can join and that sort of thing. Beyond that, let's take a look at test execution, and this will be where you would actually set up a test plan. Not going to actually go through that. I went through it earlier, and it's very involved with the test data because there's so much there. But this would actually be where you would set a test plan and the test execution. And once that is done, you can then generate reports back under the main project settings, and then it will generate more data than you can possibly comprehend. So pretty powerful tool. The steep learning curve. I intend to learn more about it. I'm going to have to. In terms of what we learned in class, I really thought the traceability, the ease of setup here is really nice, and you can just kind of go in and select what you want to look at and get that nice sort of cross section of data. But I'll leave it at that for Jira, and then I wanted to cover a few papers that where they're discussing using this tool and how effective it is. So we'll cover that next. Okay, just wanted to mention a few papers I found talking about specific use cases for Jira. First one, using Atlassian tools for efficient requirements management, industrial case study. What they found that it is very low cost in comparison to other tools out there, but it's still feature rich. Integrates easily with other Atlassian tools. They specifically mentioned Bitbucket and Confluence, and you can easily move tasks between those two, and you can integrate the Bitbucket code repositories within, and lots of nice, overlapping functionality there. They really like the robust logging. Basically, any element or any object, anything linked to it, or any change, you can read the logging for any change of any element linked to an element. Which seems like to me it could get a little bit confusing and verbose, but they seem to really think that's a great feature. Full link tracing, in other words, again, any element that a change is made, you can see changes made to it or any object linked to it since basically the beginning of the project, was my understanding from reading it. They did mention as a con that full traceability requires extensions. I think I mentioned that earlier in the demo, that you do have to download a third-party software to really get that full traceability back to sort of day one. And along those lines, they mentioned by default it doesn't really offer baselining out of the box, so you have to kind of add some features to it to get that full change over time. But it is capable of doing it. You just have to spend a little bit more money. Yeah. Using Jira and Redmine in requirement development for agile methodology. Redmine's tool has been around for a while. It's open source, at least was when I used it. And it does something similar to Jira, but just nowhere near as robust. And they mentioned Jira as a valid replacement for Redmine. It's far more customizable. They really like the fact that it's far easier to create user stories in Jira. You can do it in Redmine, as I remember, but Redmine is more of a code repository that they threw some requirements engineering tools on top of. So maybe not really the best option these days, other than the fact that it's free. Combination of Kanban and waterfall modes. This was mentioned with Jira, that there's really no sort of storyboarding in Redmine, that you get that combination of Kanban and waterfall right off the bat, where you can sort of create the tasks in your 3 columns in Kanban and then go in and create the subtasks. Really no equivalent functionality in Redmine for that. And bug reports can be linked to user stories. It's something that they seem to have really liked about Jira that you can't do in Redmine. Basically, in other words, if you've created a user story and you had them created a feature based on the user story within the system, if there's a bug report based on that particular feature, it can circle all the way back around and trace that link to the user story that actually created the problem. So pretty helpful there, especially if you have 100, 200 user stories on a big project. It'd be nice to be able to, okay, so this was a feature request from this user story. We know from day one kind of where the problem started. Yeah. Alternative issue tracking data set of public Jira repositories. I thought this one was just kind of interesting, and it's why I wanted to mention it. They're basically talking about using Jira as sort of a one and all tool for coding and requirements engineering and project management. They think it's that function that they think it has that much functionality. And this paper I should mention was written in 2013. And they were saying then they were surprised that it had not gained more market share because it kind of takes some of the best features of GitLab and GitHub and Bitbucket and all the various tools that are out there. SVN, it's kind of an old one, just plain Git. And it can sort of do those things, but then it has the project management on top of it. So they were buying one for more support directly for repositories in Jira. Because it does excel at traceability. That was one of the big things that they were kind of implying that if the code repositories were linked, the traceability would even be more extensive than it is now, which is already a very extensive traceability suite. I see this potential competitor to conventional code repositories, as I mentioned. They think it could potentially replace something like GitLab or GitHub. Might have a long way to go there, but we'll see. Tracking traceability functions are superior to most tools, and that meaning superior to what you're going to see in something like GitLab or GitHub. Probably not something like IBM Rhapsody, but that is a full competitor. But for most competitors on the same level like GitLab, GitHub, it's probably just as capable and could be possibly more capable. And it currently does integrate with GitHub and GitLab, and that's something they mentioned that if you decided to use Jira as a full project tool for both requirements engineering and development, you could do that. You're going to have to add some extensions and spend a little bit of money, but the tools are out there, and it could be used as a full-fledged development suite for an entire project. So that's my presentation. Thanks for watching. It's been great working with all you guys over the semester, and I guess I'll see you around the program and look forward to watching your presentations. Thanks.